my name is Jessica Draperman, and this is my pitch for my Unit 13 final major project, the Hysteria of It All documentary. So for this project, there are a variety of ideas that I could choose to create. However, after the UK's lockdown measures were put in place, some had to be thrown away as they were impractical for the current climate. This includes the first idea I came up with before lockdown was to create a short film based around music and vinyl collection culture and how sometimes we can overcomplicate things in our minds. And when lockdown measures came in, this became impractical due to the locations I was planning to film in, as well as the size of the cast and the crew for this. So the first idea is an expository documentary about the lack of female professionals in the media industry, as well as its impact overall. This would be for a target audience of 16 to 30 for both male and female. However, it will be mostly female due to the subject matter. The reason it will be a mixed target audience for this is there are festival owners, festival professionals, and professionals in all industries. The creative industry, from research, is still massively male dominated. On the left, you can kind of see the top example, which is by a music journalist called Lucy McCourt, who recently did an experiment where she took released festival posters and took away all the male artists to show the lack of women on those lineups. This caused quite a lot of outrage between people. However, it was quite important because it showed such a large issue, and that's kind of the inspiration for that first idea. The second was a poetic short film about a person losing themselves in the world around them. This is relevant later on to the final idea I now have. So in a way, it's sort of similar with the person losing themselves. However, it's no longer a short film. I've now changed it to be a documentary. The second idea was a poetic short film about a person losing themselves in the world around them. The target audience isn't referenced here due to it being personal poetry. It actually hadn't been written at the time, so that idea has been changed anyway to the final original one, which I'll be referencing later on. The third was to create a music campaign for a band. The target audience would vary on the demographic of the artist and genre of the music. So it would be very participatory, with fans and bands getting involved. So if it's a band such as Blossoms, the target audience would be from about 14 to 30. Although it's a fairly practical idea, the biggest issue within that idea is copyright, because I would be using different pieces of music that the YouTube algorithm may not recognise as credited, even with copyright laws and YouTube guidelines which have changed in the past few months. So that third one is very much impractical anyway due to copyright. This is the final idea I've come up with. So for my Unit 13 fan major project, I plan to create an expository documentary centred around the phenomenon of mass hysteria and moral panic in detail. This will include information on their impact, key examples, and as a whole. The aim for this documentary is to educate and inform the audience on the topics, and the reasoning for this is to try and prevent further harm that the phenomenons have and can cause. This was originally to be a poetic short film, however it didn't quite fit the context at the moment, and there would also be a lot of issues with location filming, limited equipment, and also interpretation. So the target audience for my documentary is both male and female with an age bracket of 18 to 55. This is actually based on a survey I conducted at the beginning of making this project. So I did a survey on SurveyMonkey, and it concluded there was more of a female majority, and also the majority of participants were between the age of 18 to 55. I've also done the target audience for my documentary is both male and female with an age bracket of 18 to 55. This information is based on a survey I conducted using SurveyMonkey, as well as research on who is most affected, targeted, and at times subjects of fake news, mass hysteria, and moral panic, as well as those who may be the This is based on a survey I conducted using SurveyMonkey, as well as research on who is most affected, targeted, and at times subject of fake news and mass hysteria, and moral panic. The reason I've chose the age bracket as well to start at 18 is one of the most common subjects of mass hysteria, moral panic, and fake news tends to be youth subcultures. The reason the target audience bracket starts at 18 is due to being a young person myself. With being 19 myself, I have seen plenty of youth subcultures themselves be subjects of fake news. So I feel it's quite relevant to me, and I feel it's also quite relevant to my peers at the moment. So the documentary will be split into two main sections with 4 sections in each. One section will be on mass hysteria, and one section will be on moral panic. So the 4 sections within these two main halves of the documentary are the origins / the history of both phenomenons, including their first occurrence, as well as supposed causes. I'll also be looking at the actual definitions and misconceptions of both, as one of the most common ones being that they are the same thing. In some way they're associated, however one produces physical symptoms, one does not. I'll also be looking at examples in media, specifically in television and film. These examples include Riverdale, where there was a mass fainting of cheerleaders, and then also looking at Chicken Little, which will refer to moral panic, as well as other undecided examples. I'll also be looking at the science behind both mass hysteria and moral panic. These will be backed up by real case studies, both historical and modern, such as the dancing plagues of 1518, the Pendle witch trials, and, if time allows, Mary Whitehouse. And to finish off, there will be some final words on how people can spot it, and how in the future there could be more prevention on the amount of harm that they can cause. So the project rationale. We are living in a stressful and anxious time with the global pandemic. and it has caused many to act irrationally in an attempt to stay safe and well, with panic buying being one of the most common around the world. This irrational thinking has been fueled by a wave of misinformation spread around social media and various news outlets referring to supposed causes and its current impact internationally. This misinformation can cause potential harm to many, and it's important that people don't fall into the trap. My aim for this documentary is to be a source of reliable information for all people. For this project, there are an array of things I will need to research in order for my project to be effective. For this project, there are an array of things I will need to research in order for this project to be effective in its main aim, which is educating and informing the target audience about mass hysteria and moral panic. In order to create a successful project, I'll be researching both the technical elements, such as editing camera shots, and contextual elements, such as basics of the product and genre, historical and modern examples, as well as examples in media. Due to the current lockdown situation in the UK, there isn't a lot I can film myself. So much of the visual elements for this project will be pre-existing footage from news archives such as BBC, ITV and Channel 4, and possibly international news sources, YouTube videos and other online outlets. These will be used with the consent of and with credit to the original owners of those pieces. I'll also be using extracts from online sources such as magazines and books. One of the books I'll be using quite a lot is Folk Devil and Moral Panics by Stanley Cohen for my Moral Panic section, and then also some B-roll footage, with some of it being filmed by myself around my local area, and to sort of edit in behind any images, and also transitional elements, and then also to give more context and background to the main footage, and also give some context to the time itself. With the genre of this documentary being expository, there are key elements I will need to include in order to adhere to the requirements of the genre. Scripted narration will be a key part of the audio throughout the documentary, as well as audio clips from news reports and some copyright-free music in order to give context and add a bit more character to the key parts of the documentary. For this production, the crew will be made up of myself with some assistance from family members when it's needed. Specifically holding equipment such as cameras for parts where I'm in front of camera, lights for specific B-roll footage, especially if it's specific type of day such as night or early evening. I plan to be as heavily involved in this project as possible with filming. This is due to current lockdown measures which prevent people outside of their family meeting up and doing activities. And unfortunately, that does not stop for the creative industry. To create this project, I'll be using my own equipment, including a Nikon D3 400 camera to film B-roll footage of locations and subjects, a phone torch to provide extra lighting during evening shoots if they are required, an audio recording application on my phone in order to record narration, which will then be cleaned up using Premiere Pro and Audacity. Audacity will likely be used if Premiere Pro cannot be accessed at the time. Premiere Pro will also be used to create the final visual elements as well as the final project. The main resources for this project include news archives for accurate case study facts that I'll be including, as well as footage from reports in order to give better context to some elements mentioned. There are a variety of constraints that come with this project. These include filming inside the local area due to lockdown restrictions, social distancing measures, which have come into effect on travelling to certain places and meeting up in large groups. that has changed as of Monday the 1st of June, where now 6 people can meet up with 2 metre distance, which still isn't exactly practical for something like this. There's also a lack of access to key equipment and environments, such as lighting and studio. This means I'll have to improvise with what I have around me. Luckily there's a lot of YouTube videos and online blogs that have come out recently on how you can adapt your own equipment with such simple things. So for example, using toilet rolls for lenses. It sounds silly, however, when you're in a creative media industry, it is called a creative industry, so it sort of comes hand in hand in a way. So for lighting, I'll likely be using a phone torch, as mentioned before. So to get a lot of these tips, I'll be using online forums and blogs in order to get this information. So I plan to complete this project in a minimum of 10 weeks. This is factoring in editing, filming, research, focus groups, as well as any other final paperwork. This is subject to change, depending on deadline updates and updates from the exam board. I'm extremely excited to create this product. I feel it's not only relevant... I'm extremely excited to create this product. I feel it is not only relevant now, I'm extremely excited to create this product. I feel it is not only relevant now, but also plays well into my current skills, as well as providing the opportunity to improve new skills throughout the process of the project. This also works well with the industry I want to go into, which is journalism. In a way, I feel this is beneficial, as it gives me a taste of what could be required of me within that industry. Thank you for listening.